Hey friends, what's up? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Kuf Yud Daled of Masechta Shabbis, Daf 114. So it's kind of a cool daf. The first Amud goes like a little quicker. The second Amud goes a little slower. So we start off talking about appropriate ways for Torah students to dress. Sounds interesting, right? Who is considered a Torah scholar? And then offering korbanos between Yom Kippur and Shabbos. That's kind of where we segue into the slower part. And then we talk about being doche shvuses, like dinim derabanan that we talked about in WhatsApp recently. Meir sent us that citation from the Rambam that we're going to sort of get into that. Right? Is shvus derabanan? Is it d'oraisa? We'll get to that. And preparing vegetables on Yom Kippur that falls out on Shabbos. Can you prepare vegetables? What do you guys think? Well, don't answer yet. Let's discuss it at the end. Friends, we're going to start on Daf Yud Gimel, Kuf Yud Gimel, Amud Beis, 5 lines from the bottom. V'sachas kvodo yekad yikod ki yikod eish. Wow. So that is a pasuk from Yeshaya, I think. Sure. Why not? Yeah, it's pasuk from Yeshaya. So God says about Sancheiriv that instead or under his honor will burn a fire. Okay, under or instead of his clothes or maybe his body will burn a fire. Let's see. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan, v'sachas kvodo v'lo kvodo mamish. So under his honor, and let's keep on going. Rabbi Yochanan the Taimei, Rabbi Yochanan carried the money mechabdosai. Right, that Rabbi Yochanan, as we learned yesterday, called his clothing his honor. So what it means, v'sachas kvodo, right? What it means it means underneath his honor, i.e., underneath his clothing, is going to burn a fire, i.e., all the soldiers of Sancheiriv, their bodies will get burnt up. But their clothing will be spared, I guess. Rabbi Lazar, says Rabbi Lazar, v'sachas kvodo, tachas kvodo mamish. Whereas he says tachas doesn't mean underneath, it means instead of, and kvodo doesn't mean their clothing, it means their bodies. So basically, their bodies are going to get completely burned. They're going to be replaced with fire. Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani Omer, tachas kvodo. So Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani kind of has a hybrid, which is he learns tachas like Rabbi Yochanan does, which means underneath, but he learns kvodo like Rabbi Lazar does, which means body. So it means underneath the body. Friends, what's underneath your body? Or sort of one step deeper within your body? Your soul. Kisreifas b'nei Aharon, like the way that the children of Aharon were burnt. Malahalan sreifas neshama v'gufkayim, afkan sreifas neshama v'gufkayim. Just like when the children of Aharon, Nadav v'Avihu, they offered a foreign fire, and they were burnt to death. So it means that their souls were burnt, but their bodies remained intact. And Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani is saying the same thing over here. Tachas kvodo means beneath his body, within his body, will burn a fire. Their souls will get burnt, but not their physical bodies. Amar bi Acha bar Abba Amar bi Yochanan minayin l'shinu begadim min haTorah. How do we know a precedent for changing your clothing in the Torah? It says Rashi, top Rashi on Kuf Yud Daled Amud Aleph, minayin l'shinu begadim shehu derech kavod lifnei hamakom, that it is a way of honor before God. So where do we see in the Torah that changing your clothes is a way of honor before God? Shneimar, as the pasuk says, by Trumas Hadeshen, right? Every day in the Beis Hamikdash, they would take a shtickle ashes from the Mizbeach, and wait a second, is this talking about Truma? Yeah, I think it is talking about Trumas Hadeshen, but why does it say Mechutz Lamachna Makom Torah? Trumas Hadeshen went outside of the camp? And that's what it means, that when all of the, maybe that's what it means. Oh man, I'm not sure. What does Rashi say? Oh yeah, I don't think it's actually Trumas Hadeshen. I'm not sure it's talking about Trumas Hadeshen. I think it might just talking about when there's too much ash on the Mizbeach, so then they would take all the ash and bring it outside of the Beis Hamikdash. I think that's what it is. In any event, it says over there that when the Kohen is taking out these ashes, so he would change his clothing. And he wouldn't wear his regular clothing that he serves within the Beis Hamikdash. Rather, he would use ki'ilu work clothing that he doesn't care if it gets dirty when he's taking out all these ashes. And therefore, we see a precedent of, it's honorable to God to change your clothing and to wear nicer clothing when you're serving God. And for that reason, the Kohen, when he was taking the ashes out of the Beis HaMikdash, so he would change into like work clothing, so to speak, so that the clothing that he's serving God with in the Beis HaMikdash will remain clean. Right, so as the pasuk says, Shenamar, as the pasuk says, Ufashat is begadav lavash begadim acherim, that he will take off his serving clothing and wear other clothing. V'tanan dever Rabbi Yishmael, they learn in the Besmedrash Rabbi Yishmael, limedcha Torah derech eretz, that the Torah is teaching us a proper way to live. Begadim shebishal bayin keder l'rabo, al yimzog bayin kos l'rabo. The clothing he was wearing when he was cooking in the kitchen for his master, he shouldn't then go and present himself to his master as like a waiter and pour him wine. No, his dirty kitchen clothes with stains all over them, he should change out of those clothes and then put on his service clothing and then decant wine for his master. Amr Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Amr Rabbi Yochanan, Ginayu l'tamid chacham sheyetze b'minalim ha'metulayim l'shuk, as we saw in Masechta Brachos, that it is a disgrace for a Talmid Chacham that he should go out to the market with patched up shoes. Rabbi Acha bar Chanina nafik, but one second, Rabbi Acha bar Chanina, he would go out to the shuk with shoes that were patched up. Rabbi Acha, breder of Nachman, betaloi al gabe taloi. No, when we're saying that a Talmid Chacham should not go out with shoes with patches, it's okay to have a patch on the shoe, it's not a big deal. However, don't go out with shoes that have patches on top of patches that are mamish, not mechubad. And mamish look, as we're going to see in a minute, kilu represents the Torah, right? You don't necessarily want the image of somebody who studies Torah to be somebody who is a shlump and walks out with shoes that are just covered in holes and patches. V'amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, kol Talmid Chacham shenimtza revev al b'gado chayav misa. Yoicks. So says Rabbi Chia bar Abba in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, any Torah scholar who there is like schmaltz, shtickle schmaltz on his clothing, so then he's chayav misa. Oy vey. So nobody's saying to stay away from the schmaltz, but make sure that it doesn't get on your shirt, and then you don't go out to public like that. So if a Torah scholar goes out with wearing clothing that has like oil and fat and whatever he ate for lunch all over it, so then he sorry brother, but we're gonna have to kill you. Shenamar, as the pasuk says, well, I don't think that we're gonna kill you, but I guess God will kill you. Whatever, let's move on. It says it's chayav misa. I don't know. Shenamar, as the pasuk says, Kol mesanoi ahavu maves. All those who hate me, well, they must love death. Prepare to die. Al tikrei misanai ela masniai. So don't read it, those who hate me, rather, those who make others hate me. Masniai, those who make others hate me. Meaning, what happens if you have a Torah scholar who spends all day studying Torah and he goes out dressed like a shlump and he's got schmaltz all over his shirt from the chalent and kishka that he ate for lunch? It doesn't, right? So then what happens? People look at this fellow and he says, yuck, I don't want anything to do with this guy. And guess what? By association, I don't want anything to do with people with what this person represents, which is people who study Torah, right? So rather, people who study Torah, they should make sure that they are presentable, so that, we want to represent the Torah in a positive way, that we should associate studying Torah with positive ways of living. Ravina Amar said, Ravina, Reved Itmar. Oh, so Ravina says it's not talking about Revev, it's not talking about Schmaltz, it's talking about sperm. Oh, okay, very good. Talmid Chacham shouldn't go out with sperm on his clothing. Okay. Itmar, velo plige ha beglima ha belvusha. Oh, sorry, Ravina Amar Reved Itmar. So velo plige ha beglima ha belvusha, and they don't argue. Depends. If it's on your outer cloak, so that's when we're talking about the schmaltz. If we're talking about some kind of an inner cloak, like it's just like a regular shirt or something, so then you don't want sperm on your regular clothes either. So says Rabbi Chia bar Abba, the name of Rabbi Yochanan, what does the pasuk say in Yeshaya? That like my servant Yeshayahu walked naked and barefoot. Arum bivgadim bluim, naked means that he was wearing worn out clothing. V'yachef means b'min olam tulayim, that he was wearing sandals that were all patched up. Okay. Tznan Hasam, we learn over there. Where's over there? Who could tell me? In Mikvos, in the Masechta Mikvos. Revev al hamardas chotzetz. If you have schmaltz on a donkey saddle cloth, chotzetz, well, that schmaltz is going to make a chatzitza in the mikvah. You would have to, wash the saddle cloth first before putting it into the mikvah, I guess, if it somehow got tameh. Okay? Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer, ad ki isar italki. Okay, now Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says the size of that stain would have to be the size of an Italian coin. Alright? Now, if you get schmaltz on your clothing, so if the schmaltz is only on one side of the clothing, right, meaning it hasn't seeped all the way through, wasn't that much schmaltz, just a little bit, so then it's not going to be a chatzitza. But if it mamish schmaltzed all the way through, so then it would be a chatzitza. It would be a separation in the mikvah. You'd have to remove it before you put it in the mikvah. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mishum Rabbi Yishmael, says Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rabbi Yishmael, Af mitzad echad chotzetz. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rabbi Yishmael that even if that schmaltz is only on one side of the garment, it's still going to be a separation in the mikvah. When we say that the saddle cloth of a donkey, if it has schmaltz on it, that is going to be a chatzitza in the mikvah, are we talking about that it's schmaltzed all the way through, or only on one side? Amarle, Zolo Shamaiti, Kayotzi Ba Shamaiti. So Rabbi Chanina says, I don't know, I haven't heard explicitly the answer to your question, but I have heard something similar that we can perhaps learn from. Ditznan, as we learn in a Mishnah, also in Mikvos. Rabbi Yossi Omer says, Rabbi Yossi Shabbana'in, maybe it's even talking the same Mishnah, Lamaisa. I think it might be the same Mishnah. Ditznan, as we learn in that Mishnah, Rabbi Yossi Omer says, Rabbi Yossi Shabbana'in mitzad echad v'shabor mishnei tzadin. So, if it's of the bana'in, and we're going to explain what these bana'in are, but Rabbi Yossi says, well, if the garment belongs to the bana'in, well then, even if the schmaltz is only on one side, it's going to be a chatzitza. However, if it's of an ignoramus, well, then we're not going to be so makbid. It'll only be a chatzitza once it schmaltzes all the way through to the other side. But just a shtickle schmaltz for a ignoramus won't be a chatzitza, because chatzitzas are generally on something that you are makbid on. And I guess an ignoramus, either he isn't makbid on little stains, or he doesn't have to be makbid on little stains, right? Well, I'll give you a little giveaway. Bana'in, at least according to one opinion, means Talmidei Chachamim, right? So as we said, Talmidei Chachamim have to be more makbid on making sure that they are clean and tidy. Therefore, for them we're more strict. For the ignoramuses, so maybe they are strict or maybe they aren't, but they don't necessarily, we don't require them to be strict. So therefore it's only going to be a chatzitza when the clothing is schmaltzed through and through. You're going to have to wash that first. Anyways, so we see that according to Rabbi Yossi, in ignoramus, it would the schmaltz on a shirt would only be a chatzitza if it's schmaltzed all the way through. So v'lote mardas chashuvim bigdol shel am haaretz. Now, it wouldn't really make sense to say that while we're not super makbid when it comes to ignoramus, even if there's schmaltz on only one side of his shirt, so then it wouldn't be a chatzitza. Yet we're gonna be more strict when it comes to a saddle cloth of a donkey, that even if there's schmaltz on only one side, it's already considered a chatzitza. No, from the fact that we can, Rabbi Yossi can say that for an ignoramus, it's only considered a chatzitza once it's schmaltzed all the way through. So you can assume that for the saddle cloth of a donkey, it's also only going to be considered a chatzitza once it's schmaltzed through and through. A good geschmacka, schmaltzy saddle cloth. Sounds like a saddle cloth that I'd want to ride on. Sounds very nice. Maybe it's, maybe it's shtickle not safe. I assume the point of the saddle is you want to stay on the donkey, but if it's so schmaltzy, you might be slipping and sliding, no? Maybe you gotta wear a seatbelt. But what if the seatbelt is schmaltzy? Oh gosh, that sounds like a schmaltzy ride. Some people might like that, lemaise. Let's go weiter. My banoin. Nu, what are these banoin? So, Rabbi Yochanan elu talmidei chachamim she'oskim b'vinyano shel olam kol yamein. Wow. What is these banoin? These banoin are talmidei chachamim. Right, as we say, right, what do we say? Talmidei chachamim marbim shalom ba'olam. Right, shnema v'chol bonaich l'mudei Hashem v'rav shalom bonaich ha'atigre bonaich ala bonaich. Right, bonaich referring to talmidei chachamim. They're the ones that they uphold the world through their Torah study. They build the world, keep it built with their Torah study. Okay, so therefore, when Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rabbi Yishmael that it's the bana'in, even if there's schmaltz on only one side of their clothes, it's talking about Talmidei Chachamim. From Rabbi Yochanan, it says Rabbi Yochanan, Ezu Talmud Chacham shemachzirin lo aveda b'tvius ha'ayin. Who would be considered a Torah scholar that if he just shows up and says, oh yeah, that's my lost object, that we can just trust him? We don't say, well, give us a sign to prove that it's your lost object. We can just trust him. So ze amakbid al chaluka lehofcho. So that is somebody, I don't know if it's anybody, probably he's talking about a Torah scholar, I guess, who's because after all, we are talking about somebody who's a Torah scholar, but I guess a Torah scholar who's also careful when it comes to his clothing, that if it's inside out, he will flip it over to make sure that it's outside in, to make sure it's the right way. Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan, Ezu Talmid Chacham shememarin also parnes al tzibur. Sounds like somebody's doing some work, some noisy work that will distract me. Okay, well, then I better try not to let it distract me. Who is a Torah scholar who we can appoint him as a leader of a congregation? So this is a Torah scholar who you can ask him a question of halacha anywhere in the Torah, and he will be able to give you an answer, even if it is in something as specific and as infrequently learned as the brisa that's called Masechta Kala. V'am Rabbi Yochanan, it says Rabbi Yochanan, Ezu Talmid Chacham shebnei Iru mitzuven la'asos lo melachto. It says Rabbi Yochanan, who is a Torah scholar that the people in his city are commanded to do his work for him, to support him. Interesting. This is somebody who puts aside his own needs and his own interests and deals exclusively with the interests of God. Now, to put this in perspective, the Gemara says this means, we just ensure that he has bread to eat. This doesn't mean that we have to, ensure that he lives the good life. Just make sure that he has his basic needs, and that we can focus on serving God. Rabbi Yochanan is now going sort of almost like unpacking something that something that Rabbi Yochanan mentioned earlier. Rabbi Yochanan, Ezu Talmid Chacham kol sheshoilin also halacha b'chol makom v'omra. Right. So it says Rabbi Yochanan, who is a Talmid Chacham. This is somebody who you can ask him a halacha in any area of Torah, and he will be able to explain it to you. L'may nafkamina limnuya parnas al tzibur. And what is the nafkamina in terms of how erudite he is? Well, in terms of placing him as a leader of the community. Ibechad mesechta be'asrei ibechula tanuya b'reish mesifta. If he's able to answer a question in one Masechta, does Rashi say? Exactly. B'chad Masechta means the Masechta that he's learning right now, right? So if he can answer a question that you ask him in the tractate that he's learning at the moment, well then you could make him the rabbi in your city, the leader of your city. If you can mamish ask him a question anywhere in Shas, well then you could make him the Rosh Yeshiva. And if you remember, on Daf Gimel Amud Beis, right? So there was an incident, one of those Bar Pachte incidents, right? Where we had Rav and Reb Chia in front of Rebbe. And Rav asked Rebbe a question that was just like a random question about Hilchos Shabbos, and Rebbe was not necessarily learning the Hilchos Shabbos at that point. And Rav asked him a question to which Reb Chia sort of scolded him and said, "Hey, Rav, you're not really supposed to ask somebody a question if they're not learning that Masechta right now, but don't worry, it's okay because Rebbe is on such a level that he can even answer you basically anywhere in Shas." So we see that Rebbe would sort of fit into this category of being able to answer a question anywhere in Shas, and that it was befitting of him to be the leader that he was. Zak di Gemara. Reb Shimon ben Lakish Omer, says Reb Shimon ben Lakish, Elu kelim ha'olayrin haban mimdinas hayam. Oh, so Rish Lakish says. So I guess he disagrees with his chavrusa / Rebbe Yochanan, and whereas Rebbe Yochanan said that Bana'in are the Talmidei Chachamim who build the world through their learning, Rish Lakish actually says that the Bana'in is referring to clothing of the bathhouse attendants, because a bathhouse is called a Bei Banei, so that's like Bana'in. So these Bana'in are the clothing of the bathhouse attendants, that they had this very fancy like towels and things that they would have for their customers when they would leave the bath. So that is what we're talking about when we say that the clothing of the bathhouse attendants, if there's schmaltz even on one side, it's already going to be a chatzitza. 1 second, but is that implying that these towels of these bathhouse attendants were white? But Rabbi Yanai said to his children, Banai, my children, my sons, do not bury me in white shrouds or in black shrouds. Don't bury me in white shrouds, because if I do not merit to go to the world to come, and instead I merit to go to Gehenim, well, then I will be there. I'll be in Gehenim with my white clothing, and I'll be like a groom among mourners. Shchorim, and don't bury me in black clothing, because Shema ez ke'evel ben chasanim, and do not bury me in black clothing, because maybe, who knows, maybe I will merit and I will be able to go to Olam Haba, to Gan Eden, and if I'm wearing black clothing, well then I will be like a mourner among the grooms. Ella b'chelim ha'ol yarin haban mimdinas hayam. Rather, bury me in shrouds that are somewhere in the middle. Rather, bury me in the shrouds of these ol yarin that come from overseas. Almost sumkeninu. So we see that it wasn't black, it wasn't white, it was red. So lokasha habaglimi abilvushe. It depends. If it's like the outer cloak, which is what Rabbi Yanai was referring to, so that would be red. But if it's sort of like a lower cloak, so then like an under cloak, something like the bathhouse attendants, this isn't like a cloak that you'd wear out to the, as like your top layer of clothing out to the market, so that would be white. Okay. Rabbi Shmuel Omer Mekaplin Chulei. Okay, exciting stuff. So what did Rabbi Shmuel say in the Mishnah? Rabbi Shmuel said that you would be allowed to fold clothing and make your bed from Yom Kippur to Shabbos. Okay? V'chelvei Shabbos krevim b'yom HaKippurim. And then he continues and he says in the Mishnah that the fats, which Rashi explains as the Avarim, which means the limbs, which is interesting. Okay, but the limbs from, if you have like a korban tamid shel bein ha'arbaim, the afternoon korban of Shabbos, okay? So chelvei Shabbos krevim b'yom HaKippurim. So let's say Yom Kippur falls out on Motzei Shabbos. So the limbs of the tamid shel bein ha'arbaim from Shabbos afternoon, if they were not yet put on the Mizbeach, you could put them on the Mizbeach on Motzai Shabbos, which is Yom Kippur. However, if Yom Kippur was on Friday, and you didn't manage to get the limbs from the Tamid Shalbeinu Arbaim of Yom Kippur onto the Mizbeach, do not put them on the Mizbeach on Friday night, which is Shabbos. Rabbi Kiva Omer says, Rabbi Kiva, lo shel Shabbos kreven b'Yom HaKippurim, v'lo shel Yom HaKippurim kreven b'Shabbos. Also continuing in the Mishnah, Rabbi Kiva says that it doesn't work in either direction, right? If Yom Kippur is on a Friday, do not put, if you didn't manage to get all the limbs of the Talmud Shabbat Arbaim of Yom Kippur onto the Mizbeach before the end of Yom Kippur, you may not do it on Friday night, which of course is Shabbos. And if Yom Kippur is on Sunday, well, if you didn't manage to get the limbs of the Talmud Shabbat Arbaim from Shabbos afternoon onto the Mizbeach before the end of Shabbos, do not put them onto the Mizbeach on Yom Kippur, right? It doesn't work either way, okay? So that's machlokas between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva, right? Rabbi Shmuel basically says, everybody agrees that you would not, that if Yom Kippur falls out on Friday, you would not be able to put the limbs of the Talmud Shabbat Arbaim from Yom Kippur afternoon onto the Mizbeach on Friday night, on Shabbos. The machlokas is, what if Yom Kippur is on Sunday, right? Can you put the limbs of the Korban Talmud Shabbat Arbaim of Shabbos? If you didn't manage to put them onto the Mizbeach before the end of Shabbos, can you put them onto the Mizbeach Motzai Shabbos, which is Yom Kippur? Rabbi Kiva says no. Rabbi Shmuel says yes. Okay, fine. Tanu Rabban, so says the Gemara, Olas Shabbos, so don't read it b'Shabbato, read it b'Shabbos, okay? That is what the Gilyon offers as a way to read it, and it reads a shtickle better. So Tanu Rabbanan, Olas Shabbos b'Shabbos. So we learn in a Brisa that we have the pasuk says, I think in the context of Shabbos. Yeah, definitely in the context of Shabbos. Olas Shabbos b'Shabbos, right? So what it's saying is you could bring the offering, the Korban Tamid offering of Shabbos on another Shabbos, right? What does that mean? Limit al chelvei Shabbos shekreven b'Yom HaKippurim. So that teaches that the Korban Ola, the Talmud Shabbat Arbaim of Shabbos, if you didn't manage to get the limbs onto the Mizbeach on Shabbos afternoon, well, don't worry, Bishat, right? Ola Shabbos b'Shabbos. The Ola of Shabbos can be brought on another Shabbos, i.e., if Yom Kippur is Motzai Shabbos, don't worry, you can put the limbs of the Korban Talmud Shabbat Arbaim of Shabbos onto the Mizbeach on Motzai Shabbos, which is Yom Kippur, which is of course also called Shabbos. Fine. Limit al chelv Shabbos shekreven b'Yom HaKippurim teaches that the limbs of the Korban Talmud of Shabbos can be offered on Motzai Shabbos, which is Yom Kippur. Yachal afshel Yom HaKippurim b'Shabbos. Is it possible that also if Yom Kippur falls out on a Friday and you didn't manage to chaparein and get the limbs of the Korban Talmud Shabbat Arbaim of Yom Kippur onto the Mizbeach, is it possible that you'd be able to do that on Friday night, which is Shabbos? Tamalomer b'Shabbato, on its Shabbos. It's a mute. Divrei Rabbi Yishmael. It's excluding that that situation, that if Yom Kippur is on a Friday, you would not be able to put limbs from the Korban Talmud Shabbat Arbaim of Yom Kippur that you didn't manage to get onto the Mizbeach before the end of Yom Kippur. You would not be able to put them on the Mizbeach on Friday night, which of course is Shabbos. That is Rabbi Yishmael's opinion. Rabbi Akiva Omer, says Rabbi Akiva, Olas Shabbos b'Shabbos, okay? When we talk about the Ola, the Korban Ola of Shabbos being brought on another Shabbos, Limed al Chelvei Shabbos she'kreven b'Yom Tiv. So what this teaches according to Rabbi Akiva is that if you have Yom Tiv that falls out on a Motzoi Shabbos and the fat and the limbs of the Korban Tamid of Shabbos were not put on the Mizbeach before the end of Shabbos, so don't worry, you could put them on the Mizbeach on Motzoi Shabbos, which is Yom Tiv. Right? Now, of course, we learned in the first Mishnah of all of Shas, right? The first day that we had the merit of studying Gemara together. So we learned that, right? Hektar chalav ve'var mitzvasan ad sheyale amud hashachar, right? That you're allowed to burn the fats and the limbs until dawn. So even if you didn't manage to chaparein on Shabbos afternoon, so you would still be able to put them on the Mizbeach until the morning. The question is, but after Shabbos is now Yom Tiv, Rabbi Akiva says, no problem. We learn from Ola Shabbos b'Shabbos that if you didn't manage to get the limbs of the Korban Tamid Shel Bnei Arbaim of Shabbos onto the Mizbeach before the end of Shabbos, no problem. You can just do it Motzai Shabbos, even though it's Yom Tiv. Fine. Yachal af b'Yom HaKippurim. Is it possible also that what if Motzai Shabbos was Yom Kippur? Would you be able to put these limbs of the Tamid Shel Bnei Arbaim of Shabbos onto the Mizbeach on Motzai Shabbos, which is Yom Kippur? Tamlomer b'Shabbato. And it's Shabbos to exclude if Motzai Shabbos is Yom Kippur, and then certainly not, of course, if Friday was Yom Kippur and you're asking if you can offer the limbs of the Tamid Shel Bnei Arbaim of Yom Kippur on Friday night, which is Shabbos. Of course not. Okay. Now, this is interesting. Now, Kishatimtza Loma, okay, fine. Very good. So basically, according to Rabbi Shmuel, the first limud of Olas Shabbos b'Shabbos is to say that if the limbs of the Korban Tamid Shel Bnei Arbaim of Shabbos afternoon were not offered on Shabbos, so according to Rabbi Shmuel, you would be allowed to offer them on Motzai Shabbos, even if Motzai Shabbos is Yom Kippur. Okay? Rabbi Akiva learns out from that something else, which is that if the limbs of the Tamid Shel Bnei Arbaim of Shabbos were not offered on Shabbos, you can offer them on Motzai Shabbos even if Motzai Shabbos is Yom Tiv, but not if it was Yom Kippur. The question is, how / why do Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva learn their respective teachings from this pasuk? So Kshetimtza Lomar, that you can say, the Divrei Rabbi Yishmael nidarim unidavis kraven b'Yom Tiv. Okay, friends. So apparently this is a machlokes in Masechta Beitza. Looks like it comes up a few times maybe. But in any event, there is a machlokes between Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva regarding, are you allowed to offer nidavos on Yom Tiv, right? If I decide I want to bring a korban to Hashem, can I bring this korban, this sort of voluntary korban, can I offer it on Yom Tiv, or can I only do that during the week? So according to Rabbi Yishmael, the answer is yes, no problem. You may offer korbanos nedava on Yom Tiv, and therefore, if I can offer voluntary nidavos on Yom Tiv, well then certainly if I have the korban tamid shel bein arbaim of Shabbos afternoon, that the limbs were not put on the Mizbeach on Shabbos afternoon, and you're asking me, can I put the limbs of the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Arbaim on the Mizbeach on Yom Tiv? Obviously, the answer is going to be yes. I can even bring non-obligatory Korbanos on Yom Tiv. So therefore, I don't need Olas Shabbos b'Shabbos to teach me that I can offer the limbs of the Tamid Shel Bein Arbaim of Shabbos on Motzai Shabbos, which is Yom Tiv. Obviously, I can do that. I can even bring voluntary korbanos on Yom Tiv. So what do I learn from Olas Shabbos b'Shabbos? It teaches us that I can offer the limbs of the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Arbaim of Shabbos afternoon that weren't put onto the Mizbeach on Shabbos on Yom Kippur. If Yom Kippur is Motzai Shabbos, I can even put those limbs on the Mizbeach on Yom Kippur. That's what he learns from them. However, Rabbi Akiva says that you may not offer voluntary korbanos on Yom Tiv. And therefore, if you're going to ask me, can I offer the limbs of the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Arbaim of Shabbos that weren't put on the Mizbeach on Shabbos, can I offer them on Motzai Shabbos, which is Yom Tiv? I don't know. I don't have any meaning. According to Rabbi Shmuel, the answer is obviously yes, because I can even bring voluntary korbanos on Yom Tiv. But according to Rabbi Akiva, you're not allowed to bring voluntary korbanos on Yom Tiv. So what about this Tamid Shel Bein Arbaim of Shabbos that wasn't put on the Mizbeach on Shabbos? Can I offer it on Yom Tiv? So for that, Rabbi Akiva relies on the pasuk of Olas Shabbos b'Shabbos, that the Korban Ola of Shabbos can be offered on another Shabbos, which is referring to Yom Tiv, according to Rabbi Akiva. Okay? So therefore, the Divrei Rabbi Akiva, Nidarim u'Nidavos ein kraven b'Yom Tiv v'chiyitz tichkra l'mishra b'Yom Tiv. Therefore, we need that pasuk to say that you're allowed to offer this Korban Tamid from Shabbos afternoon on Motzai, right, the limbs that didn't make it to the Mizbeach, you can put on the Mizbeach on Motzai Shabbos, which is Yom Tiv. Very good. Reb Zera. Says Reb Zera, Ki Avina beBavel. When I was in Bavel, remember, Reb Zera made Aliyah from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael. So Reb Zera is now recounting of when he was in Bavel. Hava Amri, I would say, Haditanya, the following, that which we learn in the following brayso, Yom Kippurim shechalios erev Shabbos, okay, that if Yom Kippur falls out on a Friday, lo hayu token, they would not blow shofar, right? Remember we learned on Daf Lamed Gimel or something that they would blow shofar on Friday afternoon, right? So that people would stop doing malacha. So he says that I assumed that this brayso that says that Yom Kippurim shchalios erev Shabbos, that when Yom Kippur falls out on a Friday, lo hayu token, there would be no reason to blow shofar on Friday afternoon, i.e. on Yom Kippur afternoon. Uv motzai Shabbos, and on if Yom Kippur falls out on motzai Shabbos, lo hayu mavdilin, they would not make any kind of havdalah. Divrei HaKolhi. I thought that was according to everybody, both according to Rabbi Akiva and according to Rabbi Yishmael. Kisalikna lahasam, but when I went over to Eretz Yisrael, when I made Aliyah, Ashkechisa Yehuda Breder Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, I found Yehuda, the son of Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, the Yosef who was sitting with Ka'amar, and he said, Rabbi Akiva he. At that brayso, specifically Rabbi Akiva. The Rabbi Yishmael came into Omar, Chavei Shabbos craving b'Yom HaKippurim, Liska Kiechi de Lehave Yadin de Chavei Shabbos craving b'Yom HaKippurim. Okay. Friends, what does this mean? So it means that we have this brayso. We have this brayso that says that when Yom Kippur falls out on Friday, okay, there would be no need to blow shofar on Friday to indicate to anybody that you have to stop doing melacha because it's Yom Kippur. You're not doing melacha anyways, right? Now, Reb Zera assumed initially, Reb Zera assumed and even assumes later, but in any event, he was saying that when he was in Bavel, he assumed that this brayso was both according to Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shmuel. What's the nafkamina? Why should there be any difference between Rabbi Akiva's opinion and Rabbi Shmuel's opinion? What's Rabbi Akiva's opinion? What's Rabbi Shmuel's opinion? We said that the place where they argue is if you have the limbs of the korban tamid shel bein ha'arbaim, exactly. That if you have the korban tamid shel bein ha'arbaim of Shabbos afternoon, and you didn't manage to get them on the mizbeach on Shabbos afternoon, can you offer them on Motzai Shabbos when Motzai Shabbos is Yom Kippur, right? When Yom Kippur is Sunday. Okay, not Friday, but Sunday. So, Rabbi Akiva says, no, you may not. You may not put the limbs of the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Ha'arbaim of Shabbos on the Mizbeach on Motzai Shabbos if Motzai Shabbos is Yom Kippur. Rabbi Shmuel says you may. Okay. And they both agree that if Yom Kippur was on Friday, you would not be able to put the limbs of the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Ha'arbaim of Yom Kippur, if you didn't manage to get them on the Mizbeach on Yom Kippur, they both agree that you would not be able to put them on the Mizbeach Friday night, which is Shabbos. However, the difference is, well, that's one difference, but the point is that according to Rabbi Akiva, there is no difference between when Yom Kippur is on Friday or when Yom Kippur is on Sunday. It makes no difference. Putting the limbs of the Tamid Shel Bein Ha'arbaim from one to the other is not going to be allowed. However, according to Rabbi Shmuel, there's a difference that while you may put the limbs of the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Ha'arbaim from Shabbos on the Mizbeach Motzai Shabbos if Yom Kippur is on Sunday, however, you may not do the same if Yom Kippur was on Friday. You would not be able to put the limbs of the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Ha'arbaim of Yom Kippur on the Mizbeach on Friday night if you didn't manage to get them onto the Mizbeach during Yom Kippur. Therefore, I would think that according to Rabbi Yishmael, If Yom Kippur falls out on a Friday, I should blow shofar on Friday to tell the Kohanim, hey, you guys better wrap up the Talmud Shabbat Arbaim, because unlike when Yom Kippur falls out on Sunday, now that Yom Kippur is on Friday, you will not be able to put the limbs of the Talmud Shabbat Arbaim on the Mizbeach tonight on Shabbos. Therefore, you better wrap up and make sure that you get the limbs of the Talmud Shabbat Arbaim on the Mizbeach while it's still Yom Kippur. Now, according to Rabbi Akiva, you don't need this warning, because according to him, they know, you can't put the limbs of the Korban Talmud Shabbat Arbaim between Yom Kippur and Shabbos, whether Yom Kippur is on a Friday and going into Shabbos, or whether Yom Kippur is on a Sunday, which means that Shabbos is going into it. It makes no difference. So according to Rabbi Akiva, you don't really need the warning. However, according to Rabbi Yishmael, you can argue that the Taka should blow the shofar on Friday to remind the Kohanim, hey, unlike when Yom Kippur falls out on a Sunday, since Yom Kippur is today on a Friday, you better make sure that you get the limbs of the Korban Talmud Shabbat Arbaim of Yom Kippur onto the Mizbeach, because you won't be able to put them onto the Mizbeach tonight. Cool. So that is what the Gemara is saying. So again, so from the top of the Gemara, so Abzer is saying, Ki Avina beBavel, when I was in Bavel, Hava Amri, I would say that Hodetanya, that which we learned in a Brisa, Yom Kippur, Yom Kippurim shechalios erev Shabbos lo hayu token uvmotzai Shabbos lo hayu mavdilin, that when Yom Kippur falls out on a Friday, they would not blow shofar at all on Friday. Uvmotzai Shabbos lo hayu mavdilin, and Motzai Shabbos, they wouldn't make havdalah between Shabbos and Yom Kippur. Divrei Akoli, I thought that was according to everybody. Both according to Rabbi Akiva and according to Rabbi Yishmael, according to everybody, there was no need to blow shofar on Friday when it's Yom Kippur. Now, Kisalikna lahasam, when I went to Eretz Yisrael, Ashkechei li Yehuda brei the Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, I found Yehuda, the son of Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, the Yosef Amar, that he was sitting and was saying, Rabbi Akiva that Brisa who says that you don't need to blow shofar on Friday when it's Yom Kippur, that's only according to Rabbi Akiva. Because remember, according to Rabbi Akiva, there's no difference between Yom Kippur falling out on Friday and going into Shabbos, or Yom Kippur falling out on Sunday, which means Shabbos is going into it. Either way, you would not be able to put the limbs of the Korban Talmud Shabbat Arbaim from one to the other. So if there's no need to blow the shofar as a reminder. They know that that the limbs don't go from one to the other. But the Rabbi Yishmael, however, according to Rabbi Yishmael, who he does make a differentiation between the limbs from Yom Kippur being allowed to go onto the Mizbeach, from not being allowed, right, the limbs of Yom Kippur not being allowed to go onto the Mizbeach on Shabbos, but the limbs from Shabbos, yes, being able to go onto the Mizbeach on Motzai Shabbos, which is Yom Kippur. The Rabbi Yishmael, Kevin de Omar, since he said Chelvei Shabbos craving b'Yom Kippurim, since he says that the fats of Shabbos, i.e. the limbs of the Korban Talmud Shabbat Arbaim of Shabbos, would be allowed to be put on the Mizbeach on Motzai Shabbos when it's Yom Kippur, well then Liska, then you should blow the shofar on Friday, so that they know, Dafka, it's the fats of Shabbos that are allowed to be put on the Mizbeach on Motzai Shabbos when it's Yom Kippur. However, since today is Friday and it's Yom Kippur, you better wrap things up, because you will not be allowed to put the limbs of the Korban Tamid of Yom Kippur onto the Mizbeach after Yom Kippur when it's Shabbos. Now, but I said then to Yehuda Brei Reb Shimon Pazi, I said, B'Kwanim's reasoning. However, but even according to Rabbi Yishmael, this blowing the shofar on Friday when it's Yom Kippur would be unnecessary, because who are you blowing it for? For the Kohanim, to make sure that the Kohanim know to get all of the limbs of the Korban Talmud Shabbat Arbaim of Yom Kippur onto the Mizbeach before Shabbos starts. The Kohanim are reason. Meaning the only reason why we should have to blow the shofar is for other people. If the only reason you're blowing the shofar is for the Kohanim as a reminder, you don't have to remind the Kohanim. The Kohanim are reason, they're very on top of things, they know exactly what they need to do, and therefore, even according to Rabbi Yishmael, you wouldn't have to blow the shofar on Friday, and therefore, meaning if it's Yom Kippur, and therefore Reb Zer maintains his stance, and he maintains his opinion that this brisa, which says that when Yom Kippur falls out on Friday, you do not blow the shofar on Friday, that's both according to Rabbi Akiva as well as according to Rabbi Yishmael. Amalei Mark Shisha Breder of Chizda le Rav Ashi. It says Mark Shisha Breder of Chizda to Rav Ashi. Mi'amrin and Kohanim's reasoning. Do we really say that the Kohanim are so like on top of things? But we learn in the Mishnah, Shalosh lavdil sa'ami melacha, Shalosh lavdil min kodesh l'chol. Oh, so we say in the we say in the Mishnah in Masechta Sukkah that in the Beis Hamikdash they would blow the shofar 21 times, and it says that 3 of those would be on Shabbos, on Friday, lavdil sa'ami melacha, to remind the nation that hey, you should stop doing melacha now. And then on Motzei Shabbos they'd also blow 3 to signify the difference between Shabbos and the week. So the Gemara wants to say that, well, if they're blowing it in the Beis Hamikdash, well then shouldn't that be to remind the Kohanim? So apparently even the Kohanim need reminders. So Kedamar Abaye, no, it's like Abaye says, the Shar Amad B'Yerushalayim, Hachanam the Shar Amad B'Yerushalayim. Just like Abaye says in a different context, the Masechta Yoma, but the point is that he says that something that they were doing in the Beis Hamikdash was not actually for the Kohanim, but it was for everybody else. So here also, when it comes to these Tekiyas, they're not for the Kohanim to remind the Kohanim. The Kohanim are his reason, they know, right? It's to remind everybody else on Friday to stop doing Melacha, and on Shabbos to let them know when Shabbos is over. So now the Gemara asks, Viliska, Ki heichi, or Vilitaka maybe, Ki heichi de liyadei, de shari ben akivas yerek, min amincha u'lamayla. So the Gemara says, yeah, but one second. When Yom Kippur falls out on a Friday, so we had this whole discussion of whether or not you need to blow shofar because you have to remind the Kohanim that they have to wrap things up and get everything on the Mizbeach. And we said that, yeah, but the Kohanim is the reason we don't need that. But nonetheless, you should still blow shofar on Friday to let the people know, hey friends, you're allowed to start preparing the vegetables for after Yom Kippur. Right? So v'litaka ki'echi delayde the sharben kivas yerek min amincha u'lamayla. Nonetheless, let them blow the shofar on Yom Kippur afternoon to let the people know you can start preparing your vegetables for after Yom Kippur. So Amar Rav Yosef l'fishein dochen shvus lahatir. Because we're not doche a shvus, right? There's a the Rabbanan said not to blow the shofar on Shabbos, and therefore, and that would apply to Yom Kippur as well. Therefore, we're not going to override this din de Rabbanan, which is not to blow shofar. We're not going to blow the shofar just to let you know that you're allowed to prepare vegetables. Keilu, we would blow shofar to remind the Kohanim theoretically that they should stop putting, that they should make sure that they're going to get everything on the Mizbeach before Shabbos, because they're not, before the end of Yom Kippur, because they're not going to be able to do it afterwards, to prevent them from doing an Isser. But to just let people know that, hey, you're allowed to go to your kitchen and start preparing vegetables, we're not going to override the din d'Rabbanan of the Gzeir d'Rabbanan of not blowing shofar on Shabbos and also on Yom Kippur. Okay. Rav Shisha ber Rav Idi Amar, Shvus Krova Yitir, Shvus Krova Lo Yitir, Shvus Rechoka Lo Yitir. Rav Shisha ber Rav Idi says, actually, no, there's no problem with being doche a shvus lehatir. There's no problem in theory with blowing shofar on Yom Kippur to let people know that they can prepare their vegetables. But the thing is, friends, we're talking about Yom Kippur that falls out on a Friday. Now, the whole point of preparing your vegetables would be so that you can cook them on Motzei Yom Kippur. But this year, because Yom Kippur is a Friday, right, which I'm not sure can ever practically happen, but because in this particular year, Yom Kippur is on a Friday, well, you're not going to be cooking anything on Shabbos anyways. So therefore, what would really be the point of blowing the shofar? Meaning, it's Friday afternoon, you're going to blow the shofar to let people know that, in theory, if it wouldn't be Shabbos tonight, you would be allowed to go to your kitchen and prepare vegetables so you can cook them for Motzei Yom Kippur. Meaning, it's just not relevant this year. And therefore, there's no point of blowing shofar on Yom Kippur that falls out on a Friday. Okay, so Rav Shisha ber Rav Idi Amar Shvus Krova Yitiru, they allow you to be doche a shvus if it's for like immediate relevance. Shvus Rechoka lo itiru. But, for to be docha this Shvus for something that's going to be relevant, like basically next year, or some other year when Yom Kippur isn't a Friday, we're not going to override the Shavuos for that reason. Ushvus krove itiru. But one second, if you have meaning overriding this Shavuos of not blowing shofar would be allowed if it's to tell you that you're, permitted to do something right now, such as, we said that if theoretically you'd be able to go and prepare your vegetables right now because Motzai Yom Kippur wasn't Shabbos. So Rav Shisha Ber Davidi says that, theoretically there would be nothing wrong with that. So we learn in the Mishnah, Yom Tiv Shechalios Erev Shabbos, if you have a Yom Tiv, a regular Yom Tiv, Pesach, whatever it is, a regular Yom Tiv that falls out on a Friday, so token v'lo mavdilin, so then on Friday afternoon we do blow Tkiyas Shofar to remind people, hey, there are certain malachas that are allowed to be done on Yom Tiv. On Yom Tiv, if it's for ochel nefesh, such as slaughtering animals and cooking them and things like that. So, therefore, we need to blow shofar on Yom Tiv that falls out on Erev Shabbos to remind people, hey, stop doing your melacha, Shabbos is coming. V'lo mavdilin, we also don't do Avdallah on that Friday night, since it's going into Shabbos. Motzai Shabbos, now if Yom Tiv falls out on a Sunday, mavdilin, so we make a Havdalah in davening on Friday night, on Saturday night, v'lo token, but we don't blow shofar on Saturday night, which is now Yom Tiv. Ve'amai, why don't you blow shofar? Litaka, let them blow shofar. Kiechi delay deshari b'shchita la'alter. So you can let people know that, hey, you're allowed to now shecht animals and eat them. So, Rav Shisha Ber Davidi, if you would be allowed to be docha the shvus of not blowing shofar on Yom Tiv, if theoretically though we would push off, we would override that shvus and say that you'd be allowed to blow shofar if it's to let them know that something is mutter, and in this case on Saturday night, let them blow shofar to let them know that you're allowed to shecht korbanos now because it's Yom Tiv. So according to Rav Shisha Ber Davidi, it would be permitted, but we say that on Saturday night you would not blow shofar. Rather, it makes more sense like Rav Yosef, that the reason why, that you're not docha shvus lahatir, that we don't override this a shvus, which in this case is that the Chacham said not to blow shofar on Shabbos or Yom Tov or Yom Kippur, that we don't override that if it's to say that something is permitted, such as preparing vegetables to cook on Motzei Yom Kippur, or permitting to slaughter animals, letting people know that you're allowed to slaughter animals, etc. Continues the Gemara. Amr Reb Zera, Amr Rav Huna, V'amrila, Amr Rabbi Abba, Amr Rav Huna. Yom HaKippurim shechalios b'Shabbos. So what if Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos? Now that does happen. It happens, feels like it happens fairly often. But Yom Kippur that falls out on Shabbos, also b'knivas yerek, so then you're not allowed to prepare the vegetables, right? If Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos, you're not allowed to prepare vegetables on Shabbos to cook on Motzai Shabbos. Amr Rav Mana, says Rav Mana, Tananami Achi. I'm reading it like Tagos Abach. Says Tananami Achi. We also learn in a Bryce like this. Minan Yom HaKippurim shechalios b'Shabbos she'asu b'knivas yerek. How do I know that when Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos, I'm not allowed to prepare vegetables on Shabbos for Motzai Shabbos to cook them on Motzai Shabbos and Motzai Yom Kippur? So Talmud Omer Shabboson Shvus. Well, the pasuk says in the context of Shabbos, it says Shabboson. As Meir pointed out in WhatsApp, he brought the Rambam the other day in WhatsApp, and he wrote, the Rambam says that because of the pasuk it says Shabboson, you should make it Shabbos. It means Shvus. Now the Rambam was saying that it means that's how we learn dinim deoraisa, that there's all sorts of derabanan. There's also all sorts of gezeras that the rabbis said, hey, don't do X, Y, and Z on Shabbos because we want you in the spirit of Shvus, of Shabboson, in the spirit of keeping Shabbos. Now, interestingly, at this point, at least in the Gemara, it's not going to be the conclusion of the Gemara, but at this point in the Gemara is assuming that Shvus is actually deoraisa, right? That from the fact that it says Shabbaton, that means that it's mideoraisa, whatever we learn out from Shabbaton, and the Shvus concept of not doing certain things on Shabbos, even though they're not the 39 melachas, would actually be mideoraisa. Okay? So now, the Brisa is saying, so it says, Talmud Omer Shabboson, Shvus. So the pasuk says, Shabbaton, and therefore you should, rest from doing certain activities. Limai, and when it says Shabboson Shvus, what's it talking about? If we're talking about malacha, so in this case, not just preparing vegetables, but actually pulling them out of the ground, well, we already know that you don't do any of the 39 malachas. So what do we learn from Shabboson? Rather, it's talking about something like just preparing vegetables. It's not one of the 39 malachas, but we're saying that don't, refrain for preparing these vegetables on Shabbos, which is also in this case Yom Kippur. Prepare for doing that. Do not prepare these vegetables on Shabbos if you know that you're only doing it to use them on Motzai Shabbos. Therefore, you would not do that because of within this sort of category of Shabbaton Shvus, of refrain from doing anything that isn't really a very Shabbos dika thing, such as preparing for cooking on Motzai Shabbos. Now, and therefore the assumption is that this Shabbaton Shvus thing is Mida Oraisa. And what we're saying is that on Shabbos, Mida Oraisa, you would not do something like preparing vegetables for Motzai Shabbos. And therefore, since it's a Dinda Oraisa, so when Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos, don't prepare these vegetables for Motzai Yom Kippur. Even though if Yom Kippur was on a Tuesday, so you would be allowed to. But because Yom Kippur is on a Shabbos, and it's an Issur D'Oraisa on Shabbos, and we say that, so if it was just on like a Tuesday or something, so then it would be allowed, as we're going to see, because it's, are we even going to see? Yeah, we are going to see, because it's, Mipnei Agmas Nefesh, right? Because it's part of Inoi, right? V'nisem es nafsho seichem, right? Preparing food on Yom Kippur, it's, you can't eat it, so it's a shtikol Agmas Nefesh, it's in the theme of the day of Inoi, of making yourself uncomfortable. So in general, it would be allowed if it was like Yom Kippur was a Tuesday, but because it's Shabbos, and on Shabbos there is this din d'oraisa of not preparing for Motzai Shabbos, so therefore you would not prepare these vegetables when Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos. Shma mina. Fine. Amr Reb Chia bar Abba, Amr Reb Yochanan. Now Reb Chia bar Abba says the name of Reb Yochanan, however, Yom Kippurim shechal lios b'Shabbos mutter b'knivas yerek. But one second, Reb Chia bar Abba says the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that when Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos, you would be allowed to prepare these vegetables. Meisvei, but we have a kasha. What about this brisa that we just learned? Minan liyom Kippurim shechalios b'Shabbos she'asu b'knivas yerek. How do you know that when Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos, you're not allowed to prepare vegetables? Tam l'amar Shabboson shvus, right? Limai, and what's he talking about? This shvus. If it's talking about actual malacha, we know don't do the 39 malachas. Rather, it's talking about preparing these vegetables, and that's also midorais on Shabbos. Therefore, don't do it when Shabbos falls out, when Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos. So the Gemara says, lo, le'olam le'malacha. No, really, when it says Shabboson and it says shvus, what's also midoraisa? Malachas. And it's saying that not only are you over, when you do a malacha on Shabbos, not only are you over on a lo saseh of lo saseh kol malacha, you're also going to be over on you're also violating the mitzvahs aseh of Shabboson, of shvus, of, rest on Shabbos. But, so when you do a malacha, when you do one of the 39 malachas, so not only is there the lo saseh of lo saseh kol malacha, but there's also the mitzvah saseh of Shabbaton. But in terms of any kind of thing that we refer to as a shvus, any kind of thing such as preparing from Shabbos to Motzai Shabbos, that's only a din d'Rabbanan, right? Because of shvus, of we want you to, in the spirit of Shabbos, of resting on Shabbos, we don't want you to prepare vegetables to cook on Motzai Shabbos. However, if it's Yom Kippur, and it's part of Inui Nefesh to be preparing food that you're not allowed to eat right now, so then it would be permitted, and that is why Rabbi Yochanan is saying that you would be allowed to prepare these vegetables from Shabbos onto Motzai, on Yom Kippur that falls out on Shabbos. Tanya Kavasid Rabbi Yochanan, we have a brisa that supports Rabbi Yochanan, Yom Kippurim shchalios b'Shabbos, and when you have Yom Kippur that falls out on Shabbos, mutter b'knivas yerek, you're permitted to prepare these vegetables. Says the Gemara, let's just finish the parak, Mefatzin be'egozim You're allowed to crack open nuts, and you're allowed to open up a pomegranate on Yom Kippur in the afternoon, because it's part of Agmas Nefesh. Right? It makes you feel, it's part of the theme of Inui on Yom Kippur. Devei Rav Yehuda Mikanve Karva, in Rav Yehuda's household, they would peel cabbages, or prepare cabbages. Devei Rabba, in Rabba's house, Garde Kaire, they would scrape pumpkins. However, Rabba saw that they were starting to do this too early, before the afternoon, when when the fast wasn't sort of the hardest, and it wasn't Inui. So Amr Lui said to them, also, so he said that, well, a letter actually has come from Eretz Yisrael to us in Bavel, from Rabbi Yochanan, saying that you're actually not allowed to prepare vegetables in the afternoon. Meaning Rabbi Yochanan's opinion is that you are allowed to prepare the vegetables on Yom Kippur afternoon, and because of that, Rav Yehuda and Rabba would prepare, in their households, they would prepare vegetables in Yom Kippur. But when Rabba saw that they were starting to do this a little bit too early, so he it sounds like he fabricated this letter that says, actually, just off the press, actually Rabbi Yochanan says that you're not allowed to prepare these vegetables on Yom Kippur afternoon. Okay, so that's that they wouldn't prepare the vegetables. Fine. That was Daf Kuf Yudalad. So there was some interesting stuff. It also got somewhat, thorough there at the end. So let's review what we learned today on Daf Kuf Yudalad of Masechta Shabbos. So first we talked about appropriate ways for Torah students to dress, such as you don't want to have holes in your shoes. Also, you should wear clean clothing. Talk about who is a Torah scholar. So in order to be able to return a lost object without having to interrogate him, so that is somebody, a Torah scholar who, if his clothes are inside out, he cares enough to make them the right way. Who is the Talmid Chacham that should be a community leader? So to be a local leader in just his town, so as long as he's able to be knowledgeable in the current tractate that he's learning. If he wants to be the Rosh Yeshiva, well, then he has to be able to be knowledgeable in all areas of Torah, that you can ask him any question and he'll know it. Who is a Talmid Chacham who you should support him, at least provide him with basic things like bread? That is somebody who leaves his own desires, his own interests for the interests of God, for spiritual interests. Then we talked about bringing offerings between Yom Kippur and on Shabbos and Shabbos, between in both directions. So Rabbi Shmuel's opinion is that so it starts from the fact that you can bring korban nedavos on Yom Tiv, right? So on Yom Tiv you're allowed to bring sort of voluntary korbanos in the Beis Hamikdash, and because you're allowed to bring voluntary korbanos, well then certainly you would also be allowed to bring the korban tamid shel ben arbaim of Shabbos, that the limbs were not yet put on the mizbeach. You would be allowed to put them on Motzai Shabbos when it's Yom Tiv. So the pasuk of Ola Shabbos b'Shabbos, which says that the limbs of one Shabbos can be brought on another Shabbos, is saying that when you have a korban tamid of Shabbos afternoon, that the limbs didn't go on the mizbeach yet, so you'd be allowed to put them on the mizbeach on Motzai Shabbos, even if it is Yom Kippur. However, Ola Shabbos b'Shabbato, it doesn't work in the other direction. The tamid of Yom Kippur would not be from Friday would not be allowed to be put on the mizbeach on Shabbos. Rabbi Kiva, he says that nedavos are forbidden to be brought on Yom Tov, and therefore what he learns out from Ola Shabbos b'Shabbos is that the tamid of Shabbos is mutter to be brought on Yom Tiv when it falls out on a Sunday, on Motzai Shabbos. However, both between Yom Kippur and Shabbos, in both directions, you would not be allowed to put limbs of the korban tamid shel ben arbaim onto the mizbeach at night. We talked about overriding dinim derabanan. So Rav Yosef says that you do not override a din derabanan if it's just to say that something is mutar. So for example, you wouldn't be allowed to blow shofar on Friday that it's Yom Kippur, just to let them know that they're allowed to prepare vegetables. Whereas if Shisha Bredav Idi, he says, no, in principle there's nothing wrong with overriding the Shavuos in order to la'atir, but only if it's for something immediate, not if it's something long-term. But we ended up proving that wrong from the fact that when Yom Tov falls on Motzei Shabbos, we don't blow shofar to let them know that you can shecht korbanos immediately, so that kind of disqualifies his opinion. And then we talk about preparing vegetables on Yom Kippur that falls out on Shabbos. So Reb Zer in the name of Rav Huna, some say it was Rabbi Abba in the name of Rav Huna, says that it's not allowed. Rabbi Yochanan says that it is allowed. Alright friends, I hope you enjoyed that daf, and I hope you enjoy your day. Peace out.